Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome. Today I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about good times and bad times. Good times are temporary, they are fleeting, they come and go, but guess what? So do bad times. So do some of the roughest patches in your life, and we all go through them. And they're either very short-lived, or they go on for a long time, or perhaps maybe years, maybe decades. But eventually there is an expiration date. There is an end date. You know, I gotta remind myself all the time that my whole life can really turn around in a month, which is January, the beginning of next year. Or it could take 4 or 5 years for me to finally get that overnight success. And lately, I've made peace with either. Whichever one comes first, I'm okay with that. Just as long as there's an end to all of this, right? But good times and bad times, they're both temporary, and they both have the beginning date and they both have an end date. But before I go any further, I want to go ahead and just give a quick shout out, not that he needs it, to Greg Anderson. For those of you guys that don't know, Greg Anderson, he has a podcast called Endless Endeavor, which I've been a huge fan of for 2 or 3 years now, and there's a reason for that. The guy is unfiltered. He's completely 100% authentic. He is completely himself in every podcast that he's ever done, and he's not even he's not a Joe Rogan. He's not a Russell Brand. But the guy he's just one of those guys that is just what you see is what you get. But when I say that this guy has no filter, I mean he has no filter over any of the words that come out of his mouth, or any of his opinions, in a good way. Some people are vulnerable like that in a negative way, kind of like Kanye West is. But Greg Anderson is the polar opposite of that. He is very vulnerable in a positive way. And yesterday I listened to his most recent podcast, where he talked about, let me go ahead and just give you guys some background on who this guy is. So if you guys don't remember, when the pandemic first kicked off, he made this 8-minute viral video as a police officer in his patrol car, advocating against all of the mandates that came around, such as the business closures and the mask mandates, the curfews, and talking about how overreaching it was, and how it was not in the police officer's wheelhouse to go out and enforce all these unconstitutional, all these illegal orders that were coming down the pike. And he made an 8-minute video about that, and he got, and I think not even the day after, he got shit canned. They fired him because they didn't like that he was pro-freedom. They didn't like that he stood against all of the, just the whatever COVID bullshit, which I think, were we ever really in a pandemic? I don't think so. I don't think it's a real thing. Some people still think it's due. People on the right or people on the left still think it's a real thing. I don't, but that's my own personal belief. But anyway, that's who this guy is. And obviously he's not a police officer anymore. He is a full-time jiu-jitsu coach. He has his own gym out in Seattle, Washington. And he does a podcast once a week, and I've listened to it for 2 or 3 years now, and I don't think there's ever been a Thursday that ever went by where I didn't listen to his podcast. But let me talk about his podcast yesterday specifically, because he went really he went really he was talking about his time in Cabo. He went on vacation with his friends and his family, right? And he was very open and vocal about his negative thoughts. But I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there for you guys. You guys can go and listen to his most recent podcast to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. But he was very, very vulnerable, very truthful. I don't think I know a single soul out there that was as vulnerable as he was in that podcast that I listened to yesterday. And let me tell you, holy shit, that's rough. But you know, I've had similar thoughts. I've been in more rough patches in my life than I care to remember. I've risen up, I've fallen flat on my face, risen up, fallen flat on my face, and it's not a good feeling. But it's very easy when we get into a complicated mess that we just don't think it's ever going to end. Like we think this is it, you know, this is the end for me. My life is over. You know, I'm however old. I'm 30 years old. I'm 35 years old. I'm 40 years old. I'm 50 years old, and my life still hasn't changed in the way that I want it to. What's going on here? What am I doing wrong here? Or, you know, I'm strapped financially and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to get out of this rut. I just feel like I'm stuck here forever. But it never turns out that way. Whatever rough patch you're in, whatever rut you're whatever deep hole you're just stuck in, first of all, there's always a way out. Where there's a will, there's a way, and there is an expiration date to that, and you'll start to experience some really awesome times. You'll start to feel really good about yourself again. But there's also a caveat to that too, which is, and Andy Frisella talks about this a lot in his podcast, where the reason that you experience tumultuous, hard times is because there's still a lesson that you haven't learned yet, or maybe there's something that you know has been a deep-rooted issue for you, and you just refuse to confront it. You refuse to change it or to tackle it head on, because we all have a very fear-based mindset. We don't want to face our own demons. We don't want to face our own problems that are right there in front of us, but for whatever reason we keep pretending that they're not there. Hard, difficult times are there to teach you something, and if you haven't learned the lesson yet, the pattern is just going to keep repeating. It's just going to keep happening. You might experience some of the same rough patches, or you might face worse situations, because you just haven't learned the lesson yet, either because you're just always throwing a pity party for yourself, or you know, or you're just always woe is me. That typically tends to be the reason why you're stuck and why you can't get out of it. And look, I'm stuck just like you are. I'm still not out of the woods yet. I'm still not even close to where I want to be right now. But it's because I haven't learned yet. And look, sometimes that's directly your fault. But sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. And sometimes you learn instantly, and sometimes it'll take you a while. Maybe it'll take you a long time, just as long as you learn the lesson. And whatever hard time you're going through it will change. It will end. It will get better. I mean, you are gonna face other. You're gonna. It's not that the hard times are gonna stop. It's not that. You know, it's not that they're never not gonna be a thing for you. You might experience different hardships later on down the road. You might be facing a whole new set of problems. But you have to learn, and again, it's all temporary. Everything around us right now is temporary. It's fleeting. It comes, it goes, it's born, and then it dies, and that's the cycle of life. But there is hope. You will find your way out of this. Where there's a will, there's a way. There is hope for you. Your life is not over. Well, except if you're Sam Bankman-Fried or Nicholas Cruz or Darrell Brooks. If you're unless you're one of those three people, I think you're okay. But you guys know what I'm saying here. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it, whatever dark period you're in right now, maybe you're in a dark period, maybe you're experiencing the best time in your life. But wherever you're at in life, I hope this helped you. And if it did, share it with your friends and your family. Subscribe to me on YouTube at Collectively Fearless. Follow me on Instagram at itsmatty_ice. I don't want to go on too much longer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, rest of your morning, or rest of your night. And I will see you again next time.